Good morning, real closers. Good morning. How's everything, Gustavo? How's everything today?
Doing good, man. It's Monday, ready to start the week going strong. Let's go.
And what are we talking about today?
So, great topic we got today. So, really interesting one. It's about the two toughest objections in real estate happening right now. The two toughest objections. And I think everyone's seeing some variation of these objections, right? I want to talk a little bit about them. I want to show folks the general approach that I recommend kind of in dealing with each one of these. And I want to invite folks, if they're interested in this kind of topic, we're going to take the deep dive Wednesday, right, at a free webinar about how to deal with these objections. And I'm going to share some materials you should have. Every real estate agent should have. If you're talking to potential buyers, talking to potential sellers, you should have this information ready to go. Rapid fire, shoot from the hip, because you want to be prepared, because you want to look like a pro. You want to sound like a pro. And you can't handle, in my experience, you can't handle really difficult objections, challenging objections, without having practiced them first, right? You got to have, I don't want to say the S word, the script, because people can get turned off by that. But you got to have your response ready to go. You got to have a solid response that you can go back to them with and get them interested in working with you, because you're a pro. You want to sound like a pro. So that's what I'm talking about today. The two toughest objections. And, I'm going to set the table. And for the people who want the deep dive on that, I'm going to drop the link so you can register for a free webinar on Wednesday. We go deep, deep, deep in handling these. But let's get started, right? Because the number, I'm going to start, there's two. The first one to start with, right? They're in no particular order of importance, but the first one is what I call the timing the market objection. Okay, they're timing the market, and we're seeing a lot of folks give people some variation of this objection. Buyers and sellers that are holding off buying or holding off selling, right? Because they're expecting something to happen that hasn't happened yet, right? Oh, you know what? I hear the market's going to crash. I want to wait for it to crash, and the next day I want to go buy it, right? They're going to wait for the crash to happen, okay? Or their seller, they're saying, you know what, I don't know if it's a good time to sell or not. I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold on. I'm not sure what's going on right now. I'm getting a lot of mixed signals. I don't think it's a good time to sell. I don't think it's a good time to buy, right? We're getting everyone, you know what I'm talking about. Everyone's getting some version of those objections. But if you're talking to buyers and sellers every day, which you should, and you know what, I'm going to touch on that at the end. Because there was a great post in the group over the weekend. I want to touch on that. I'm talking to buyers and sellers every day. But if you're talking to buyers and sellers every day, you're seeing these objections on the daily. I know it because RISAs are asking about this, right? We have group coaching sessions and one-on-one coaching sessions. Guess which are the number 1 and 2 objections they're dealing with? It's timing the market. It's buyers and sellers on the fence, right? They're not sure what's going to happen, hence they don't want to do anything. Okay. So when I tell folks about this, there's something you should react. You should not, number one, I see a lot of agents make this mistake. Don't agree with them. Okay. Like, oh yeah, I know market's terrible. Yeah, you should wait 6 months, right? Like, oh my God, what is that? Right? Like what? You're projecting your own fear and insecurity to these folks, to buyers and sellers, right? But honest to God, Roberto, I've seen people in this group, real closers, and other groups. Like, yeah, you're right. They're true. It's true. It's true. It's the end. Oh my God. And you're in a cycle of despair, right? So folks, that's not what your response should be, right? If your response to anyone that's thinking, should they buy or sell real estate in this market, is to not buy real estate and not buy or sell real estate in this market, go do something else, right? That you can believe in. Go do something else that you can actually have some confidence in when you're responding to that. When someone asks me, I'm still a real estate agent. Someone asks me as a real estate agent whether they should buy or sell in this market. I tell them how to effectively buy or sell in this market, okay? And I use evidence, right? I give them reasons why it's a good time to buy or why it's a good time to sell. But when you're asking someone, when someone asks you, right, forget the open-ended question of whether it's a good time to buy or sell. That's not a common objection, actually. It's not a common objection. The common objection is they're telling you they're not going to buy. They're telling you they don't want to sell because of some unforeseen circumstance they think is going to happen immediately, and then they want to buy or sell right after that. They want to time the market. They're trying to time the market. The number 1 way you should try to respond to this objection is not being combative, not telling them they're wrong, right? It's not to, agree with them like a lot of agents I see out there doing, right? That's not the appropriate response. When someone is unsure and they're giving you a fear-based objection, that's a lot of what this is. A lot of these timing the market objections are fear-based objections. And most fear-based objections, luckily, are not rational, okay? They're not rational objections, right? Because you can show them, and we'll go into more detail with this on Wednesday. You can show them some graphs saying not only is the market not crashing, it is nowhere near crashing. And yes, interest rates are at 6-7%, right? It's nowhere near. Where I was showing this to folks over the weekend. We are barely, as a country, at half of the inventory level, active inventory level that we had before the pandemic. As a country, we are at the halfway point of where we were just in 2019, right? So yeah, the markets will be crashing. There's no indication that that's happening or that it will. Okay, so that's one piece of information you can help, because you should try to educate people. You should try to coach them. And ultimately, the most important way to handle this objection is you want to drill into their motivation. Okay, when the market is uncertain, when people are not sure, people are holding off, people are on the fence, you need a motivated buyer or seller to execute on that transaction. They have to be motivated. They have to be motivated. So you double down and you ask them about their motivation. Okay, that's a big thing. And we'll be going more into detail on that. The other objection that comes up a lot on the buy side and even on the selling side, right? A lot of folks can struggle with this. If they locked in a mortgage at 3.1%, 2.8%, whatever it is, they're like, oh my goodness, interest rates are 7%. How can I possibly make a move? How can I get a new home? How can I buy as a first-time home buyer? How can I buy as a move-up buyer, as a move-down buyer? How can I possibly do that? This is crazy. This is where your local experience and expertise has to come in. You've got to give them options, okay? And I'll be going into more detail on this on Wednesday. You got to give them options on how to buy down that rate. What's a 2-1 buy down? What's a seller buy down? Are there any new construction incentives in your area? What you've got to give them ways to effectively lower that rate, right? Because if they can get from 6.8 to 5.5, that's a completely different circumstance for a lot of folks, right? You might not be able to get them 2.8, right? Probably not. But if you can save a lot of money and see options for them, adjustable rate mortgages, 2-1 buy down, seller financing for those points, you can give them options. You want to then drill down into motivation as well, right? So I guess the biggest thing I want to tell folks is that there are ways to effectively handle these objections. You're not going to get everyone to say yes. Oh, sure, I'll buy a home now. That's not always going to be the case. But at least the people that have the most motivation, they're the most motivated, you can give them something to hold on to, and you can have a better conversation with them. A lot of my clients use these objection handlers, not just when talking to leads on the phone, in buyer consultations and seller consultations. They talk about that. The issues can come up. If the person's being really honest with you, they're going to bring these objections up because they're in the back of everyone's mind. They're in the back of everyone's mind. Everyone's thinking about these things, right? But the market, but this, but that, but the interest rate, but this, but that. You've got to be ready to address them. Don't avoid these. Got to attack when they come up, got to attack them head on, right? And if you've got a really good buyer presentation, a really good listing presentation, you're already addressing them in that presentation, right? I'll talk about that on our session on Wednesday as well. A good buyer presentation, a good seller presentation, listing presentation should address most of the objections in the presentation itself, right? They're like, man, you covered everything. It's great. It's awesome. I totally understand kind of where you're coming from with that, right? So you gotta be prepared and you gotta go. But before we finish up, Roberto, I do want to say one more thing, right? This was a great conversation happened over the weekend. I reposted a post from another community, a private coaching community, and an agent told a really great story, right? Because these objections handlers that we're talking about today, they're only relevant if you're talking to enough people every day about real estate. If you've never heard those objections, you're just not talking to enough people, period, in the story, right? If you're only talking to people who have no objections, I don't think you're talking to anybody, to be really honest. In this market, I don't think you're talking to anybody, right? You got to be talking to enough people. And people can say, oh, Gus, but the market, but this, but that. It doesn't matter, right? Whoever has the most real estate focused conversations every day will win. Whoever has the most real estate focused conversations on a daily basis is going to win regardless of the market. The only difference in a shifting market versus a more of a bull market is how many people you've got to talk to on a daily basis. That if you look at it that way, Roberto, it really focuses the problem. It simplifies things. It takes more conversations, more leads, more calls, more appointments to do deals right now, May of 2023, than in May of 2022. Everyone knows that, right? Everyone knows. Everyone, I think, understands that. The thing you can control is how many people you talk to on a daily basis about real estate, a real estate focused conversation. And over the weekend, I posted this story. This agent, I'm going to summarize it here. This agent gets into an Uber. They live in an area where there's a lot of bars and restaurants and clubs, and all that. It's a lot of nightlife, right? Over the weekends, over the week. And they get into an Uber and they start chatting up, and the driver's very chatty. And they're like, hey, that's great. I can talk out of my elbows. Let's just talk, right? And they realize that the driver is a real estate agent as well, right? They share that information with them. And the first impression, you know what you're thinking? The first impression is, yikes, this person must be really struggling. They have to drive Uber, right? Instead of focusing on real estate. And they get to talking, and the person tells them, again, the impression they give is the exact opposite. He goes, hey, I love driving Uber. It's my best lead generation strategy. It works the best for me by far. They go as far as to tell them that they would drive for free. It's so profitable for them. They wouldn't even charge people to drive them around, but you know, Uber's Uber, right? So he goes, hey, I would drive for free, right? It wouldn't matter to them because it is so profitable for them to drive, because it is an easy way to meet people, talk to them, make a connection, and have a real estate focused conversation with them on a daily basis. And this agent is skeptical, go, yo, sure, yeah, right. They get home and they look them up on the MLS and they are blown away by what they see, right? 4 to 5 deals per month. And I don't know if it was that month or last month or every month. Maybe it was just 1 month where we closed 5 deals, right? A lot of people get lost in the details of the story, right? And they kind of miss the forest for the trees. The point of the story is not how many deals you're going to get by driving Uber. That's not the point, folks. The point of the story is find your way to have the most real estate conversations on a daily basis. Find your way. This guy did Uber, right? And you know, and I've been that guy. We talk about, oh wait, part-time agents. Oh my God, I have to drive Uber to make ends meet. Oh, that's terrible. Not terrible. Roberto, I posted that story in about 3 different Facebook groups. Roberto, the amount of agents that told me that they got started getting clients through Uber, or that currently get clients through Uber almost every day, blew me away, okay? A dozen agents were brave enough, we'll just say what it is, brave enough to say, that's how I get clients as well. It works for me. Period. In the story, right? And I'm like, there's the right there. Like who cares if that story is true or not? You're seeing people in this community saying, that's always worked for me, right? There's only so many hours you can drive. That's the only limitation. But that's always worked for me. Perfect. And then you got people back and forth. It was a good discussion. The best questions are the ones that give you the best discussions, right? The answer almost doesn't matter. Is it a good, fruitful discussion? Yes or no? That was a great question. Like, hey, can you do something like this, right? So do not miss the forest for the trees, whether it's cold calling, door knocking, generating leads from the internet, from Facebook, from Instagram, from Google, from your sphere, from your own database, whatever source, it doesn't really matter. Ubering, Lyft. One guy said, I never used Uber, but I did Lyft. Yeah, for sure, exactly, right? So he was saying Uber doesn't work, but Lyft does. Maybe it does, I don't know, right? Find the one that works, that gets you in touch with more people, and use those lead sources effectively, okay? Because I had another response, this is very entertaining, actually. He said, I've driven Uber for 2 years, and I've handed out hundreds of business cards, and I never got one person calling me back. This is what they said. This is what said. I'm not making this up. I've never had one person call me back and reach out to me and use me as an agent. And I go, number one, kudos for giving the shot. You're doing it wrong, okay? You're doing it wrong, right? Handing out business cards is not the solution. It's getting contact information, right? First of all, making an authentic connection, adding some value, getting contact information, and following up. That's not what this person was doing. But again, it was a great, they thought they were kind of razzing and shooting down this lead generation. I'm thinking, well, no, the problem here is you, my friend, right? You're terrible at this. Be better, right? Do better. Get some feedback, change your approach, get better at it, right? That is the solution. That's the story. That's the moral of the story. Not everyone should drive Uber and, you know, pester all of your clients and get in the car. That's not the point. The point is find what works for you. And I thought it was a great story and a great story and an amazing reaction from everyone, but both in favor and against. Doesn't matter. I think it was a great discussion. So check it out if you know what I mean. With that thread is here in Real Closers. Very interesting kind of reactions, both for and against. The point is find what works for you. Okay.
Find what works for you and practice those objections so that you can't
practice.
people
Talk to enough people. And I mean, solve problem by problem, you know, and Coach John Smith, the guy you've also had him here in the group. I love his approach. He goes, solve problem by problem. Don't spend 6 months preparing for the listing presentation when you don't have any listing presentations. Okay. Like simplify, keep it simple. If you're not having any objections, you're not having enough conversations. How can you have more conversations? Keep it simple, right? Any agent, Roberto, doesn't need more, in my opinion, doesn't need more than 3 sources of business. They can't even manage more than that, right? In most cases, you just need 3, maximum 3. And most of them, myself included, one outweighs the other 2 by far, but you got to have 3 because they always ebb and flow, right? So solve that problem first. Which one are you going to try? Give it, and don't just give it the old college try. Do it effectively. Get some advice, get some coaching, get some education. It could be YouTube for all I care. Do it effectively. Give it a shot and then make the adjustments, right? So yeah, 100%.
Exactly, 100%. Thank you so much for stopping by again. We're back next Monday, but remember, Gustavo, you're going to drop that link for the webinar on Wednesday, right?
Correct. I'll be dropping it here. You got to register for this one, right? It's not going to be transmitted live in here. Got to register and you can join the Zoom call live. And if you register, you can't make it for some reason, you'll get the recording afterward. That's fine. But if you want to get the most out of it, get your questions answered, do some role play, join the call live. It's going to be Wednesday.
Nice. All right. Thanks, Gustavo. I'll see you on Wednesday too. I'll see you.
All right. Awesome. See you there.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.